And so what is communication for? The musical The King and I tell you that. Getting to know you, getting to know all about you. And a soliloquy that's played out as beautifully as you're going to get. You know what is, we've got this British teacher going to teach the children from Siam. And she says, if we're going to have any teaching going on, any learning, we got to get to know you, getting to know all about you, getting to love you, getting to appreciate you. And then when she's talking marriage, even more so, getting to know you. Otherwise, you can't have any kind of relationship. And so that's why it's so terribly important for us to realize this globalization we're blessed with is to help us understand and appreciate other people. Not make them like us, because we need an expensive labor and we need a market for our seconds. Well, that's not really what you want. That's what we want. It's written up in a very fine little booklet on a program called the Puebla, Panama. The World Bank has put together and broadcasted through Fox when he was president of Mexico, which is to change Central America into a dry canal by starting with pipelines, truck highways, speed trains from Panama to Puebla, Mexico. And then the other way across, dry canals. The same thing. So that they're able to bring the things that are made inexpensively in Asia across the isthmus to get onto the ships on this side where they can get to the markets in the eastern seaboard of the US and Western Europe. Plan de Puebla, Panama just destroys everything we have. But anyway, so these are the kinds of things that we got. If we could come to know people instead of come to use people, I think it would be really good. Well, what has happened then in these two parts of the world? How do we look at it? And the liberation theologians are put into that again. Two of them, Boff brothers, B-O-F-F, Argentinian, Brazilian writers, Clodovis and Leonardo, their names, they're brothers, Franciscan priests, excellent writers. They wrote a little book called Introducing Liberation Theology, 1970, published by Orbis. It's a real thin one, but it's a real good book to get a handle on liberation theology, on understanding it. They were asked the question, and they responded to it in that little book. Well, what does this first world think of the third? Or the rich think of the poor? Or the North thinks about the South? Or the 80-20 thinks about the 20-80? And the answers they came up with was that, first of all, they look at this through the empirical eyes. Empirical not in the sense of top down, but empire and then down. Control. An empire is going to control. Huh? And so with these empirical eyes, how do you see those people? Well, they're dumb and lazy. We don't use that terminology, but that's what they are. You show it in logos, like the fella in Mexico with the sombrero over his eyes, his knees up and leaning against the cactus, because it's the land of mañana, land of la siesta. I don't know what they do with those thorns in his back. Okay, so kind of a sign. Well, do you really mean that? Well, no, but that's the way it is. So how do you deal with that charity? Not like Benedict's going to talk about charity in any way whatsoever. Love received and given. But the fellow sitting on the corner selling pencils out of his sombrero, you toss him a quarter and you say, hey buddy, I had a great day today. Keep the pencil. That kind of charity. Way too common, really. And then the functional eyes. And that's where, well, You're the way you are right now because you're, and we get back to this word, uncivilized. You're not like we are, huh? Like we said, talked about during the time of the encomienda system. So we've got to get you to make the quantum leap into the 20th/21st century. And we'll teach you how. We'll show you. We'll program you to death. Spanish word, and I flinch because you hear it so often. Capacitación. To do this project with coffee, we had to be capacitado in raising coffee. We had people come and tell their people that raised coffee. The people here were born in coffee fields. So you come in from the U.S., from Canada, because you have this knowledge of agriculture and teach them how. Come on, guys. Now, where are we at? But anyway, that's the problem. One world or one civilization cannot tell another world or another civilization how to act because they don't understand. They can't understand. That's the difference. You just come to appreciation of both. Oranges can't tell apples how to taste, for goodness sakes. That's up to the apple. And then dialectical. That's the tough one. That's when the people become the subject. That's when you have to ask them, why are you living like this, for goodness sakes? And they'll tell you, according to the Buff brothers, because we are oppressed. And that term, coming from all of these things I've told you about the encomienda system, etc., etc., and I want to translate that word oppressed into, we cannot live the life way or the culture we want to live. Here in Guatemala, it stands out loud and clear. We are Maya. We must have a direct relationship with Mother Earth. Our story of creation tells us that, for goodness sakes. And that's how we cooperate with Creator God in the continuation of creation. That's part of our spider web. 94% of the land in Guatemala is in the hands of 7% of the people. And a more recent statistic, these are government statistics, by the way, another one put together by the commission that investigates the economics of the nation, has told us 80% of the arable land in Guatemala is in the hands of 2% of the population. Like that gal from Madrid was able to find their doctoral thesis. Most of the land grants that were issued by the crown in the 1600s are in hands of the heirs of the original recipients. Until we do something here, forget it. We keep trying, almost everything we deal with is here. That's the major effort of governments, the World Bank, the International Development Bank, the International Development Fund will tell you how to do it. You can't because you don't know. You're not living our culture. Listen to us. Yeah, but you're dumb and lazy, for goodness sakes. That's how come you're poor. It's a terrible attitude, and it's one that we all, literally, we all struggle with.